All right, welcome this evening to our Mapleton City Council meeting on August 4th, 2021. Jim is on his way. We'll be here shortly. We're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to begin with an invocation by Councilman Garrett and a pledge of allegiance led by Councilmember Egbert.
Our kind Father in heaven, we bow before thee this evening. We're grateful for this opportunity to meet as a community and to discuss some items in the city. We're thankful for the blessing it is to live here in this wonderful community and to experience great experiences together as friends and neighbors. We pray that thou will bless us as we discuss these items tonight, that we will be prudent in our decision making, and that all of the information that we need to know will be brought forth, and we ask that thou will guide us and direct us in our lives. We are thankful for those who serve us, especially the first responders, and we are grateful for those who tonight who will be recognized. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Please stand and join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, I'll state the obvious, but we want to welcome our fire and EMS people here this evening, and when I heard that you guys were going to be here and receiving some certifications tonight, I started pondering what I would, how I could possibly say enough to you guys who take the time to do this, to go and get these certifications, for our leaders, for you guys that take the time to train and take the time at the station to be ready for whatever call is coming next. On Tuesday, what's today, Wednesday? Yesterday, I had the opportunity to go to Cedar City and to Enoch and travel around and see some of the disaster from the floods and stuff there. And as I drove around, you'd see people gathered up and parked in church parking lots, and the community come together. And I mean, you saw nothing but shovels with full-on mud, people hauling stuff out of their basements, throwing it in big dumpsters up and down the streets. And it was a sad thing to see, but then you look at the people coming together and helping. You got first responders out there helping, and those guys are out there leading the charge and setting an example on how to do it. And man, I started thinking about our city in Mapleton, where we live, and I thought, I mean, I can't help but think we got the best of the best. I mean, really, we do. And as I talk to other leaders, city leaders around us in the county, and things that are going on, and especially with some of the things we've had happen recently, and we, as many of you know, we had a tragedy in the city a couple weeks ago. It was a difficult thing, and you know, it's one thing if we respond and we respond in a way that we weren't able to be successful because we didn't have the right equipment, we didn't have the right people, we didn't have the right trained people. That's one thing. But I'm proud to sit here and say that that was not the case in this incident. We had the right people, we had the right equipment, we had the right people trained, the right people on the site. Everything was right for that to not be end as a tragedy. And you know what? At least we can sit here and say and be proud that we got the right people on the ground, and confident that when the next call comes, we got the right people responding to it, and we're going to give everybody an opportunity to not have a tragedy like that, and hopefully we have a better outcome. And I want to thank you guys for showing up to those scenes and be able to handle them professionally and handle the people professionally and work through it and continue to do it, and do it not because just because it's your job, but because you truly care. You care about the people involved. You care about the people in this community, and for us, it means everything. So we want to thank you for your efforts and everything you guys do, and the hard work and training. And I know Chief Glasgow, he can be hardcore. There's no secret about that. And you know what? How grateful we are that he's willing to push hard and make it the best that we can make it. You know, we don't have all the resources in the world that we'd like, but you guys are doing an incredible job. So we want to thank you, and then I'll turn it over to Chief Glasgow.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, Council. Today we're here to recognize 3 volunteer firefighters that have worked really hard the last 2 years, well, year to 2 years to get all of their fire certs. So just a little background on this. In Utah, there is no difference between a full-time paid firefighter and a volunteer firefighter when it comes to certifications at the state level. They need to get hazmat operations awareness, Fire 1 and Fire 2. These 3 individuals did all of that. They also obtained their Wildland firefighter certification. This is the same certifications that if you got hired with Salt Lake City, you'd go through a 16-week academy for. And we did it here in-house. These 2 gentlemen on each side, they took on the training and they trained these guys in-house. They didn't have to go off to some fire academy. They did it here right in our own backyard. We used the college UFRA, the Utah Fire Rescue Academy, excuse me, to come in and do the testing. And these guys all met the standards. So today we're here to honor these 3 volunteer firefighters that also do EMS for us, with the awesome achievement of obtaining all of their state certifications. So if we can have Jaden Haney, Adam Pinales, and Brandon Pfeiffer come forward. So one of the traditions of the fire service, we showed you it before, that leather shield on the front. You get it once you're fully certified. So these guys are all earning their leather shields tonight. A couple times before we put it on, or we just handed them the shield, but I wanted you guys to be able to see it actually on their helmet. So. One more.
All right. Thanks, family members and friends, for coming to support as well, and you're welcome to stay through the rest of the meeting. You might need something to stay awake if you decide to, but if you do, great. If you don't, you're welcome to dismiss yourselves at any time as well. We'll now move to our public forum. We've got Forrest Anderson and Donna Anderson, who have signed up to speak today. If they'd like to come forward and state their name, and then know the drill.
My name's Forrest Anderson. I spoke last month and just wanted to follow up because you said that the discussion was going to be moved.
Forrest, could you hold a little closer to the mic so Camille gets all your...
So I don't swallow it?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
I'll try my best to
Okay.
keep just enough distance. Anyway, I just wanted to follow up on our discussion last month about the property that was is up for review on the changing of the zoning. And I did a little more looking into this in terms of that area of Mapleton. And I don't know if you have a map available, but basically from Maple Street north to 1200 north, and from 1000 east to the mountains, that whole section is 1 and 2 acre lots or larger. And the lot in question is kind of an island in the middle of this section. And my main concern about this is that what happens here will be a precedent, because that whole section, particularly from 800 north to 1200 and then east to the mountains, they're larger lots. They're 2 acre and bigger, especially the closer you get to the mountains. And so whatever decision you make on this will be a precedent for what happens. And if we're trying to preserve the nature of Mapleton as as an open country area, then it has to be thought very carefully what decision you make on this, because if it goes to smaller lots, then the whole thing will probably follow along. So.
Okay, great. Thank you, Forrest.
My name is Donna Anderson, and I spoke at the last city council meeting, so I don't want to take a lot of your time, but I just wanted to reiterate my feelings that I'm opposed to rezoning this lot to be smaller than 1 acre lots. I wouldn't be opposed to it being rezoned for 1 acre lots, but I'm opposed to it for some of the reasons that Forrest mentioned, but also if you go to that area, if you drive down that street, this is alpaca and horse and Oreo cow country. This is not an area of, the whole area is larger lots on every side of my property, and it's beautiful. It's one of the last beautiful open areas in Mapleton, and it's right at the head of an access area to the nature trail that people love. Every day people walk by our house, and we're out in our yard, working in the yard, or we're walking on the trail, and they talk about how much they love this area and go to it. It would be, and once this area is subdivided, it is gone. We can't get it back, and it's a major countryside area of Mapleton, and I'd like to ask you to please reconsider the idea of rezoning this area to be half-acre or smaller lots, because once that property goes, it never comes back, and it's a major area that expresses the backyard homestead nature of Mapleton. All my neighbors have backyard homesteads, and on most sides they have larger animals. So I'd like to ask you to please don't rezone the area.
Thank you, Donna. Forrest, we'll certainly consider your comments on item number 3. We'll move forward with for an approval on the consent agenda items.
I have a question on 2.
On to what?
On 2 on the consent
Go ahead.
agenda.
Yeah, go ahead.
My question is, it has an expiration date of September coming up. What was the reasoning behind the decision for the time limit, or why is there a time limit? Just wondering.
Yeah, so there's a 2-year time limit on our approvals, and the reasoning behind that is to ensure that if something doesn't get built within a timely manner and our codes change, that we're not building something that's then becomes non-conforming to our current codes. And so typically when the time period's about up, they can request to have those reissued, and we will do an evaluation to make sure that they still comply with the standards of approval, and
So it's
that's
basically for a code review
correct.
on changes. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
A motion by Councilmember Jones, a second by Councilman Garrett.
Carlson, yes.
Garrett, yes.
Jones, yes.
Great, we'll move on to our action items now. Number 3 is consideration of an ordinance rezoning 2.08 acres at 1116 East and 900 North from A2 to residential minor RA2. Mr. Conroy.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. So as you recall, this is a 2-acre parcel in the A2 zone. The council reviewed the request to rezone it to RA2 and a concept plan that had 5 lots, one with the existing home, so there were 2 half-acre lots and then 3 new 3rd-acre lots. The council expressed some concern with the 3rd-acre lots, and also there was some question about whether the validity of the general plan designation for this area. So this was the proposed 5-lot concept plan that was submitted previously. One of the suggestions during the council meeting was possibly to at least eliminate one of those lots, and so that's what the applicant has done. So this is the proposed concept plan that would have the 4 lots of roughly half-acre in size. As we look, if you look back at the screen here at the general plan, you can see that everything along 1200 East except for this subdivision from Maple Street all the way up past 1600 North, is in that medium-density residential. This little enclave extends out, which is which is low-density residential. And so, based on that, that's part of the discussion we had last week, was what was the reasoning behind that. And if you go back and look at the general plan before we did the update, this area hasn't changed. What was actually changed was this section was rural residential. And so the general plan amended that so that it was more of a transition from the medium to the low to then the rural on the other side of the trail. And so I think that was the reasoning behind why the designation is what it is in this area. Because the general plan is recommending what it is, and because they're proposing half-acre lots, staff thinks that that's an appropriate transition to have the third acre to the half-acre to the 1 to the 2. So our recommendation would be to approve the rezone with the condition that they limit it to 4 lots. If the council decides that they think that this general plan designation in this area is in fact mistaken or should be changed, you could direct staff to then go do a general amendment that we would go take back through the Planning Commission and City Council if you feel like this is not an accurate depiction of what we intended with the general plan. But our recommendation, based on what we've adopted, is to approve it with 4 lots or less.
And this plat's different than the plat that was shown before, right?
Yeah, so
Shown.
this is the revised plat.
Does anybody have any questions for Sean? Comments?
Are we not discussing the use of TDRs for those 4?
Not in the medium density. The medium density RA2 doesn't have a TDR requirement.
Did you say they would be half-acre lots, or there'd be 4 lots?
The one is just under half acre. It's 19,024. The other 3 are larger than half acre.
Well, I was wondering, what would it take to make that a half-acre lot to fit what we are saying?
Yeah, I'm sure they could adjust that line to make that a full half acre.
I think my question is more not about the proposal to go medium density, but go low density plus TDRs. I just don't remember, have we talked about that, how to use the TDRs for?
So the TDRs have never been used or required in the RA2 zone. It's always been going from 1 acre to half or 2 to 1.
Right.
It has never been a requirement for the third acre part of town.
But you're saying, Jessica, leave it A2 and then require the use of TDRs rather than changing the zone?
Correct. Yeah, I'm saying what are the alternatives we have here besides going straight down to medium where there can be 4?
Well, A2 would be an island in the middle, because A2, the closest A2 is in the green. Oh, sorry. A2 is in the green, right? So A2 wouldn't be.
Yeah. Is there a middle?
Would be medium.
Middle of the road.
Medium density is what the purple is. So the question to me is, does that corner lot fit well in the buffering transition from A2 over to RA2? I think that, to me, that's the crux of the decision tonight, is are half-acre lots okay right here where we're buffering from 2 acre and bigger estate farms to third acres, basically.
The general plan itself, the redo of the general plan, and the way that the process was done with Landmark, it makes sense that it's either medium, it's either yellow or purple, which is RA2 or
RA1.
RA1.
Is purple.
That it's not going to stay A2.
Right.
It's on the wrong side.
Right.
For planning purposes.
Exactly.
As much as we want, as much A2 as we can keep, this is where the line was defined. The question is did we make a mistake on the rework of the general plan, and that's not the way it should be, and we need to fix it, or is this appropriate in the spot
Exactly.
that's at? That's the question.
On the general plan, the purple was there on the lower half, like Sean showed, and we proposed and got approved purple for that strip going up to 1600s north. But the question at hand is, should we have captured more in the medium density, or in that low density?
Yeah, and you can see that part of the trick is if you did say, okay, let's take this to low density, where then is the next buffer?
Yeah.
Because you've got third acre already here,
Well, I think it's right there, Sean, don't you?
here,
Those all look like 2-acre parcels, right? They're all,
you just take
you
it
just take it up to right there to
all in that.
1200 north, right?
Just to 12 or
Possibility.
to 16?
Well, I don't know.
16 is where the
So then that,
blue is.
then
the
that
school,
buffer's
right?
next to third acres,
12, that's 12.
right?
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
Buffer,
So if
that's
you
12.
color all of that purple,
My bad.
you've got thirds next to
Ones or halves.
ones or halves, okay. Which ultimately doesn't change the proposal for this parcel, because they
It
want
would.
half. What are these halves? What are these?
Yeah, with what we changed with the TDR ordinance, you can
Oh,
only
with the TDRs,
increase
that's right.
the density by 50%, so they could do 3 lots instead of 4, I think is what the calculation would be in the, let's say you did it RA1, so you made that purple, the maximum they could do using TDRs would be 3 lots.
Okay, that's the question I was,
Right.
that was what I was looking for.
And that, rezones are legislative, as we've discussed. The council can make whatever decision you feel is most appropriate, so. I think that based on your decision will help us decide what do we need to do with the other parcels.
Well, my question we've addressed a general plan question on 2400 South, one that I was in support of. The question that this raises, or that has been raised, makes me wonder, okay, so at what point do we just go with what we've got? Or do we subjectively, or not subjectively, but just depending, case by case, choose if we really do like the general plan or not, but we've just gone through a general plan revision. Now, there's no doubt that there are some instances that it really does not make sense to have some things may have been overlooked. But that's a question that I have. At what point, if we continue to do this, why did we just go through a general plan revision? When everybody had an opportunity to get on it and give feedback and weigh in. So I'm not personally advocating for or against that change. I think that's the big question. I think we need to be careful with case by case, picking and choosing when we think the general plan is right and wrong. And I'm interested in other thoughts and feedback on that, but I think that's the bigger question, in my opinion.
Well, to your point, I think I would agree. The presumption we need to make is that we went through the general plan process and it is accurate and it reflects the intent and ultimately a legislative decision that was reasoned and thought out. I totally agree with you, though, that it doesn't mean that it's perfect, and there may be absolutely situations where we have to try to evaluate and say, you know, this is a point we missed. But I think we start with the presumption that it's consistent with and accurate with what we intended, what the legislative intent was.
Which I agree with the Andersons and some of their comments in saying that obviously we want to keep Mapleton, open and the feel that it has and whatnot. And that was the intent of the rework of the general plan, to be able to come up with where these definitive areas are. And that's exactly what we did. And now what we're doing is looking at the transition areas in a couple of these spots. And that's where we're determining we're not going to go outside of that and say, well, we made a mistake out in the middle of there, right? It's some of these little maybe transition areas that we're taking a closer look at now. But you're right, we took all the input from the city and the citizens themselves, and they put it in, and everyone gave a thumbs up. And now, do we make mistakes? Of course, we could make a mistake, and that's what I think we're here. It's at a transition area, and the question is did we get it right? If we did, then it is what it is. And if we need to make a different transition there, what is it?
Well, and ultimately, based on what I've heard Sean share and some of Jessica's questions, at the end, when it's all said and done, it comes down to the regarding this specific parcel, the difference of one lot, effectively. Is that accurate,
Yes.
right?
It is, but it also could overflow and affect the adjacent lots as well in future applications for a rezone. So if we say, okay, well, let's keep this what it is and allow a TDR to bring it to 3 lots instead of 4, then when somebody to the north or the west brings an application, then I don't know,
Then it makes, then maybe they get 4 lots instead of 5.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, so
Right.
my point being, when it's all, and I don't know what the total number of acres are in question that might potentially be changed to purple. I don't know what that acreage is. But it sounds to me that, and you're right, it could create or evolve into other parcels seeing the same course. But when it's all said and done, is it the difference between 50 lots or 3 lots? When it's all done?
Yeah.
And we don't know that, but I think there's some perspective there. We've got to keep that in perspective as well.
Yeah, I agree. My thoughts exactly.
And prior to the rework of the general plan, we have to remember that a lot of the comments that we were dealing with, and you know, there's some truth to some of it. You could say that there's no definitive lines. So if we go here, where's it going to end? You know, where's it going to stop? We do have some definitive lines, and that's not a fear in the city that we're going to, you know, that all of a sudden all that green A2 is going to, you know, be purple now, right? So there are definitive lines, and this is one that's in the buffer area, and it's that simple.
I'm not one that's necessarily concerned about the concept of precedent. We hear that word quite a bit, but it doesn't hold us obligated. If for example, this one goes 4 lots, that doesn't mean the next one has to go A, B, or C. There are 30-acre lots in our community, and that doesn't mean everybody else can get 30-acre lots. So the concept of precedent is very vague. So it doesn't really concern me very much. I think we do obviously have to go case by case, especially considering what little land remains. So I'm not necessarily worried about how this will affect the surrounding properties, although they are quite similar in shape and zone. I think for one of the things that's helpful for me, and I've been struggling with this one because you know, we do want to keep things open, and I was very uncomfortable with 5 lots on it. 4 lots, how they'd have to be laid out, make it so the width of the lots along 1200 East really reflect those lots across from them to the east. Now, I don't know what side the driveway would go on, but you wouldn't, if you're on 1200 East, the width of those parcels are the same. You know, you can even see on the map how it's not like they're like 5 houses and 2 houses. So it really will have a similar feel from the frontage perspective of it. And that's helpful for me because it won't feel very different on that road. You'll have 2 houses here and 2 houses there. And so I think I'm comfortable with the 4 plan because of how it can lay out. If it was like 4 in a row crammed together, I think that would be a challenge. But
Well, and I believe, Jessica, to your point, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sean, and I know this isn't, I mean, this is just a preliminary plat, but the way this is set up on the roads, would the driveways be on 12th East or on the south and the north? Because I've driven that block, and it makes perfect sense to me that potentially, I don't know your widths, I don't know the measurements, could the driveways be on that road to the south? Is that even an option?
Yeah, they could be on
Okay.
either one. In
So-
this case, the roads are minor roads, so the city wouldn't have a concern on locations of driveways.
So potentially, to Jessica's point, even the home access, the frontage of the home, may or may not even face 12th East.
so it could be 0, 1, or 2, or even facing 12th East.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
Are we in the position when the time comes to approve actually the plat to add conditions about where the driveways would be? What directions they would face?
I think you'd probably be better off, if you wanted to do that, to do it part of the rezone, because the subdivision ordinance doesn't have a specific requirement unless you're looking at safety issues.
Yeah, but we don't
It's not
we don't have those safety issues in this case, right? So I'd just be careful we put too many But like Jessica's saying, she's comfortable with the 4 half-acre lots. I think we leave it at that if that's what we're gonna do and not get to,
Yeah, I think it's fine.
let
And
the,
it
let the
wouldn't,
civil engineers do their job and figure out the best way to lay that out, and
I think it's fine to have, like I said, having the two, the frontage is just very similar from the ones across to the east, so
Quite a bit wider.
even if, yeah, even if two, yeah, they are actually wider on the new ones. Even if both houses faced the east, which they likely would, then it still reflects the other side anyway.
I think it'd be good for them to face the east. Otherwise, the people across the street will be facing probably their backyard fence. If you know what I mean.
I don't think I'm gonna be concerned about the driveway for this one.
For me, the balance comes with, if we rezone it tonight to RA2, that means they potentially could have the 3rd acres, but they have agreed to go with the half acres. And that, to me, is a compromisable buffer in that corner where that, because to me, the question comes because that purple line is the corner. It's kind of a little elbow. That's the only reason I'm concerned about it. But by them saying, okay, I'm gonna come back with another proposal for larger lots and only 4 of them half acres, even though they could go with the 3rd, to me, that's enough give for me to be okay with the 4 lots as well.
And I appreciate that we've already had a compromise. So I think we've seen some willingness to come to the table with what the feedback is from the neighbors, because it could have come back as 5.
I'm going to go ahead and make a motion.
Would you like to hear from the applicant?
it's
Oh,
an
yeah.
action item.
It's an action item. We've already,
So we've already had public hearing last meeting, and so this is just an action item.
Okay, but he wasn't present.
The applicant,
Yep.
he's saying, yeah.
Is the applicant present?
Oh, he is here.
Do you have anything you want to add, or are you good? Or you have to come to the pulpit if you...
Thank you for taking time to look at this. And we appreciate the service that the city council and the mayor puts into our community. So, yes, we've gone to half-acre lots, which still provides animal rights and you know, the farm type of a look. 30 years ago, when we moved to Mapleton, we're on our piece of land. Everything around us was 2.5 acres, and that changed, you know, somewhat against my wishes, down to, you know, what it is now. And it is what it is, and we like the community. But that's all I've got to say. If you have any questions, and you know. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll make a motion. Before I make my motion, I do want to address the Andersons' comments, and I appreciate you coming tonight. And I think we can all agree that if the city could have locked the gates after we got here, each one of us would say, yes, please do. So I think we can all agree with that. But there's always a balancing act too. I think as over the decades as you all have seen, that there's a balance between property rights and general plan, and there's a balance that has to be walked. And I certainly appreciate that. So I am going to make a motion to approve the request of a rezone of 2.8 acres at 1116 East, 900 North, from an A2 to RA2.
With the condition of the plat the way it is.
Oh, with the condition of the plat as proposed with 4 lots.
I'll second.
A motion by Council Member Jones and a second by Council Member Egbert.
Egbert, yes.
Garrett, yes.
Jones, yes.
Lundberg, yes.
Carlson, yes.
All right, great. We'll move on to item number 4, which is consideration of an ordinance amending Mapleton City Code Section 1884-410 regarding accessory apartments and residential zones. See if we can wrap this one up tonight. Mr. Conroy.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. So as we discussed back in May, the city's ordinance currently allows attached accessory apartments on 3rd acres or larger. Detached accessory apartments need to be on 1 acre or larger, and there's some other stipulations. They can't be more than 1,000 square feet. They have to be half the size of the building they're located in, and some things like that. As you know, HB 82 was passed this year that was meant to try to allow for more accessory apartments throughout the state to address moderate income housing issues. And so the city council reviewed a draft, continued it, and requested to provide some direction from council members to staff. And we've had some discussions on those topics and are now bringing it back for your review. Not much has changed from the previous version regarding attached, because the attached ones are the ones that are regulated by the state. And so basically the standards they allow us to apply is what we're applying. You can propose an accessory apartment on a 6,000 square foot lot or greater. We are proposing to prohibit them in our higher density areas on the west side of the highway, so Harvest Park, Sunrise Ranch, and Fox Hollow, which is in the R2B zone. Those zones we're proposing to not allow for accessory apartments.
Just really quick, I want to clarify, that doesn't include the entire Sunrise Ranch subdivision, right?
It does. It would be
Even the 1 acre lots?
They don't have any 1 acre lots. They have some little bit larger ones that are around the bluff.
Yeah.
But they're not 1 acre, but yeah, it would be included. Those would be included in this. And then as far as detached, you recall the Planning Commission had recommended allowing for detached apartments on ½ acre or larger, and they proposed allowing for a little bit larger than 1,000 square feet on the larger lots, 2 acres plus. There was some discussion back and forth with several council members that I've had, and it sounds like there's still some question on where that minimum lot size should fall. Staff's proposing that we keep it at 1 acre or larger. And staff is proposing that we maintain the 1,000 square foot maximum square footage for lots between 1 and 2 acres, and then 2 acres and larger could be up to 1,200 square feet. I included one revision. Jessica and I talked before the meeting about one revision that's included at each of your seats, that we also include that the accessory apartment couldn't exceed 40% of the existing dwelling, or either 1,000 or the 1,200, whichever is less. So the point is if somebody has a very small existing home, like 1,000 square feet on a site, that they wouldn't then be able to build a 1,200 square foot accessory apartment, right? The idea would be it would have to be limited based on the size of the home. And we're also proposing to no longer require it to be part of a garage or a barn. It can just be a freestanding accessory apartment. So those are the primary changes. One of the topics that came up last meeting was with regards to potential exceptions for non-conforming buildings. There's such a variety of potential options for exceptions that staff just didn't feel comfortable drafting an ordinance to try to pigeonhole some of those. And so our recommendation is just adopt the standards as is, and if you comply with the standards, you can have an accessory apartment.
Now, Sean, are you referencing, can I ask questions, or are you still going?
No, you're good.
I did it, you can do it.
Are you, with that statement, are you referencing previously approved units that may not be compliant today?
No.
Okay.
No. So just buildings that weren't ever approved as accessory apartments, but that people were interested.
To it. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So the primary discussion will probably be focused on those detached units, and then the second element is the fees again. The Planning Commission's recommendation was just charge the full multifamily impact fee for detached units. They're a new structure. It's a multifamily building essentially. So that fee would be $33.44.42 currently, and then charge half that amount for the attached units, which would be $1672.21. The current fee is $5,500. So in either case, this is a pretty substantial reduction in the fees.
I have a question about that number and the 50%. In a conversation with Stephen, with you and Stephen just a few weeks ago, he had indicated, and you can clarify if I don't recall this accurately, that with an accessory unit, it does not add additional burden onto the existing infrastructure from his perspective, right? Like sewer and water, am I remembering
Yeah,
correctly?
we went kind of around and around on that. I think his point is that the size of the meter, the size of the infrastructure doesn't change with the accessory
Right.
apartments. My little bit of a different take on that is, yes, that's true, but that was intended for a standard sized, you know, our infrastructure is based on an average size household. And so when you're proposing to add an accessory apartment, you could potentially be increasing the size of those, or adding households to the city.
You're not
Which is
changing
why-
the connection sizes, but you're changing the usage
Right,
of
yeah.
those utilities. And that's where Sean's made the argument.
And so you and Stephen have two different perspectives on that. Now, I think we can all agree that there is an impact on our public safety, parks, roads, those types of
Yeah.
things. So my question is, where did the 50% come from, and that $1,600, what does that cover? Or was it just hey, let's just cut it in half, that sounds like a good number? I'm curious to know where that came from.
Yeah, I think that the planning commission's take was, yes, you can legitimately charge the full impact fee because it's a multifamily unit. The 50% was to address the issue. The general plan encourages ensuring that there's not a disincentive to accessory apartments. And so I think from their perspective, the 50% was to say, hey, this is to help recognize that accessory
Incentivize or-
apartments are
okay.
important to our moderate income housing plan,
Okay.
and this will.
It's one of the removed impediments that we have
Sure.
for allowing affordable housing.
I wasn't sure if it was based on some calculation or
No.
study or something, okay.
No.
One thing I think is important with this is that the owner is on site. He lives on site.
Correct.
Let's say that the owner has an accessory apartment and then sells the property, and the new owner isn't going to live on the property. Therefore, they would lose the right to have the accessory apartment.
Correct. Yeah, you need a
Should that be-
owner occupied
should
one of
that
the
be
two.
part of the wording, or is it clear
Well-
enough there?
It's there.
It's all owner occupied, so if you,
But it doesn't say if it would be lost if they were not to do that. I don't
Well,
know if that's
so-
necessary or not.
Well, it's inferred by ordinance.
That's fine.
you wouldn't be able, he wouldn't then be able to rent,
Both.
if he had an accessory apartment he rented and moved out, then he couldn't rent his house and have two renters. And I
Right.
think that's what you're
But
worried
if
about, right?
but if you sold the property to somebody else,
The city would have a platform for enforcement of that ordinance, right? I mean,
Yeah,
that's-
so-
that's
I'm checking
ultimate-
on.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep, we have a record of
I
all the
think that's
accessory
really
apartments.
important, that
Agreed.
the property will be much better to care
Yeah.
for.
So where would you like to start?
So we have a motion, or? We have
I'll
any
start with a few
comments?
more questions, yeah. Oh. I got a few questions.
I liked the motion. That was good.
We've only spent 9 months on this one, Sean.
No, I think we could spend
Spend 3
another,
more
we
years.
could spend another 33 hours on it, right?
Yeah,
We could do
There's a lot
that.
of
We just,
variations.
we just forced Ryan out too. It
Yeah.
was that bad.
If you're not gonna do a motion, I'm leaving.
And Sean, as soon as I ask this question, you know where I'm going with it. But on a half-acre parcel, what is the lot size or the requirement or limits on an outbuilding?
So you can have an outbuilding on any size lot in the city. There's a coverage requirement on each lot. So if you're on a half-acre lot, you can propose an accessory building, but your total coverage for that lot can't exceed 35%.
Okay? So in regards to a detached accessory unit on a half-acre versus a 1 acre, I'm curious to know others' rationale or feedback or thoughts on the difference between me putting, well, theoretically, me putting a single-level 1,000-square-foot accessory detached unit on my property, or a very sizable detached garage, workshop, play shed, whatever. Now, a 1,000-square-foot unit, that's a pretty small unit. That's a pretty small living. I'm not going to have a house, a family of 12 people moving in. So in my estimation, I don't see the difference between an outbuilding for toys or an outbuilding for a couple, maybe with a kid or a single person or something, on a half acre. So is there a difference to those on the council in regards to that? I don't see a difference. So I'm curious to know what thoughts are on that. And the bottom line would be, why would we not consider it for a half acre? I get the rural arguments, I get that. But openness often comes with the rural argument. And a single-family accessory unit is very different than a two-story, beautiful toy shed, toy barn. So I'm curious to know what your thoughts are.
Well, I'm personally on a half acre, and so 1,000 square foot building is actually pretty big for me to even consider putting next to my house on a half acre, and I don't have like a behemoth house. I have a Rambler, you know.
Saw it on the 24th.
Yeah, you did. I have a cool slide, that's about it. So we have a little shed that's like 200 or 120 square feet, something like that. That you know, it's no big deal. If someone did put 1,000 or 800 or even, that would be a huge impact on a half acre. It's actually not that big, but for me, it would be about the noise, the traffic, the parking, the vehicle, you know, there's all of that impact to me, or even 2 extra dogs, or, you know, there could be that where I
Sure,
am
you
in
as
a
a,
zone on purpose that I wanted to be in, and that's like doubling the density of a zone that's already.
so in your estimation, it's a density issue rather than a rural openness feel issue?
I think they're the same to me.
Yeah.
Do you really? Well, okay,
Density and openness
well,
are-
you're
yeah.
right, but I mean, I just consider 1,000 square, I mean, openness, there's a lot of views that are blocked by very large toy barns that are 1,000 square feet or larger on half-acre lots. I mean, I respect.
I haven't seen very many that would be that big on a half acre, because there is that like 35% rule.
Okay, maybe there's 800 or 750, right? Maybe they're on top of the toy barn. But what my point being,
What's a toy barn? I wish I had.
Go to Dallas's
come
house.
on, Jim, come on.
I'm just
Come on,
curious.
come on. That's-
I
come
need to
on.
get
It's a
one of them.
big man
Oh,
cave. big
it's
man
what
full of hay.
Dallas has.
Mine's
That's
full-
what it is.
Mine's full of hay. What are you talking
Right,
about?
toy barn.
For the toys.
Yeah.
I love how you use the word barn.
So Jessica, so for you, it just comes down to just a density. You don't want more people in your neighborhood. I mean, that's really, that sounds harsh. Excuse me, I shouldn't
But
say it
yes,
that way.
Yeah, but
That's for you is what it comes down to.
I
you.
think you're
Okay.
right, though, like, if people move to those certain zones, that's kind of an expectation, right? Like, that it is, you want a half-acre lot for reasons of density, right? Or if you wanted a 1 acre, you would move to a 1 acre for that density, and I think that's something we ought to consider. I mean, that's a,
I think
I
one
don't
of
see, I
the,
don't really see much of a difference, because personally, I was just interested in the feedback. But if
Yeah.
it comes down to just more people in the neighborhood, that's valid. I don't see much of a difference.
Yeah,
on a
for
half
me,
acre.
being on a half acre, the difference between my half acre and my neighbor across the street, that's 1 acre, it's huge difference in size. I mean, the 100% increase between a half and a full, some people might not see it like that. I see their property as being like massive compared to my little half, you know?
Your little half?
Yeah, my little half.
I think the half probably is too small, but I think an acre is probably way big, so I don't know. It's hard to go say 3/4 of an acre, but I agree. I have a little over a 1/3 acre where I live, and I have an exterior garage, and I'm thinking of turning that into an apartment. And it just wouldn't work. It wouldn't, I don't think it wouldn't, I wouldn't want to.
how many of these do we have right now in the city? Do we know?
detached ones, I'd have to look.
Like 10, 20, 30,
I would say
50?
dozens.
Dozens?
Probably not more than,
Yeah.
How many are
How many-
non-conforming?
yeah.
How many are shops or
How many are
or toy barns?
non-conforming
Yeah.
that haven't got permits?
How many live in your toy barn?
Ooh, we're not gonna have that discussion tonight. But animals or humans? So, how many do you think we have that are non-conforming, if you were to guess?
That-
In this
that
scenario.
aren't renting, or I mean, that are renting
Yeah.
and don't have a permit?
If you were to guess.
And I think we
Detached.
have a lot more that are in basements than are in
agree with
detached
that.
structures.
Yeah.
I don't think there's that many that are in detached.
And I think that hits on the point, right? Whether you're in a half-acre zone and you have it in your basement, or you have it in a little studio in the backyard, the impact on a neighborhood, that's where I don't see that as any different, really, detached or attached, so.
The only thing that I think sways me a little bit to keeping it larger is, yes, you can go in and build an accessory building, but the amount of people proposing accessory buildings on half acre or smaller aren't that large. But if you introduce this, that, hey, now you can do accessory apartments, I think you're gonna get a lot more of those types of filling up people's yards
I
in
think there's,
areas
especially,
Likely,
weren't
yeah.
proposing it before.
especially in today's market, especially given the fact that we know Utah County is filling up quickly, and Mapleton is a place that a lot of people will look to maximize their opportunities as much as possible. So I think you're gonna have a lot of people looking at this down the road. It may not be in the next 4 or 5 years, but down the road in 10 years or more.
Well, the pressures will continue to increase on both a property owner and a consumer standpoint. So just simply having what we have, we're checking the box that we're meeting the requirements of the state, whether or not it actually serves to help alleviate some affordable housing challenges.
Well, I think the attached ones absolutely is gonna
Sure.
help, and people will do it, people will legalize what they have, and I think that'll be a good thing. I think the detached one is one we have a little more say on.
I think if we do, then I think we use it, and we allow the impediments to be removed on our report to the state for affordable housing by offering this option, but keep it still on a larger lot until something else is presented to us that would lead us to believe otherwise. It's a lot easier to go that way than the opposite direction.
And we know there are many communities, even like ours, that don't allow detached accessories whatsoever, and there's issues, like we've talked about, related to density and open space that can become an encumbrance on the neighbors, so.
Okay.
My only question was like the 1,000 square feet versus 1,200, but as I've gone back and forth, that actually seems like a best practice, and for the reasons Sean has stated in the report.
Sounds like a motion.
And I like
Jessica.
dropping the fees. I've wanted to do that for a long time, so I appreciate the study we've done that resulted in the new numbers, including the 50% for the attached.
Is that a motion?
Sounds like a partial motion. Sure.
I have one.
Oh, wait,
That
never
was-
mind.
That's complete.
Theron,
I do have one question, and it goes back to the Sunrise Village. There are 2 lots that are over 1 acre, and there are 3 lots that are 0.95 acres. I can see, if we just say lock, stock, and barrel, Sunrise Village is not allowed. I can see these,
Sorry,
Aren't
hear your
they an SPD though?
this is hypothetical, yeah,
Yeah.
sorry. I'll get closer and eat the mic. So there, on the east side of Sunrise Village, there are several large lots, 2 of which are over 1 acre. If we just say that Sunrise Village in its entirety is excluded from having a detached, I think that's gonna pose a problem in the future.
So those would be the attached, they wouldn't have, so that the prohibition would be on both, on attached or detached. Because
Well, they can't have any.
He wants to, he's saying.
right, so
I misunderstood that.
so the state code allows us to, so what the state code said is you can establish a minimum lot size of 6,000 square feet for attached accessory apartments, and you can only prohibit them if the areas you're prohibiting them in is less than 25% of the total zoning area of your city. And so Harvest Park came to us and they said, the HOA said, we don't want them in Harvest Park. And that made sense to us, that you got smaller lot frontages, higher densities.
Parking
Roads.
So our proposal was, that's the SDP 1 zone. The Sunrise Ranch is SDP 2. We don't need to include Sunrise Ranch, but that was our recommendation. And then the R2B zone, because they're just narrower lots, they're smaller. The ones that are larger, the building area is actually quite small because most of the property goes
Right.
down into the area.
And
but-
that's why, to me, it's kind of not too big a deal, but being that we're now allowing detached on 1 acre and larger,
Yeah.
there are at least 2 there that could come in and say, hey, I want.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I
Okay.
want to have a detached garage, but you're saying I can't, even though I have a 1 acre lot, because it's excluding Sunrise Ranch as a
Gotcha.
whole.
And you,
I'm just saying
Are you
that-
saying you want to exclude or you don't want to?
No, I'm just saying that we should consider not just excluding the whole Sunrise Ranch subdivision, but still allowing these 2 1 acres to allow, even though it's not very likely that they're gonna build because of the building character of that trench.
Well, is the.
We're just building,
wanting to pull-
we're just building in a problem, I think, that might be a problem down the road. To me, it's not that big a deal. It might not even be this big of a discussion, but.
But to understand what you're saying, you would want to, in D, remove SDP2 out, so,
Right.
and so it's allowed in that zone, is that right?
Or just put a clause in there, all of SDP2, with the exception of the 2 1 acre lots.
So-
That's
so
that's
Theron-
all I'm saying.
So Theron, your concern is that we could have a problem in the future if we exclude it from there because of the 3 lots out of the 500 that might choose to do it, that are eligible to do it.
I just see that as an issue that was worth bringing up. Yes.
Gotcha. I say, if there's only 2 in there, why are we with the hassle, just exclude the zone, based on the reasons that you just brought up, Sean? And the zone's excluded, and yeah, those people not buying in there know it's in the zone.
Yeah, it's a
not-
consequence of buying
Yeah.
in that development.
Right.
They would have a chance to
Well,
challenge it.
they
Sure, they
bought,
could come
they
in,
bought in
sure.
that development. I know that
Because we
all
say
of
an
those are
acre.
already purchased, so they're buying in it not knowing that this restriction is
Oh,
upon
you
them.
couldn't do one, well, I guess you could on those 2, based on the 1 acre and the current standard.
And Theron, as part of one's due diligence, it would be on the burden of the buyer as part of their due diligence, if they had any intention of doing an outbuilding at some point, to do that due diligence to see, hey, I'm gonna buy over there, building an outbuilding or a detached or whatever, as a condition of me buying it, oh, I can't do it.
Right, but we're imposing this post them buying it. They've already bought it. Those lots are already purchased.
That's true, you're right,
The developer has
you're right.
many of them, some of them have been built on.
I mean, my thought was, I like the idea that as allowed by state law, we are allowed to expressly prohibit these within high-density zones. That's what we did. We basically went, these are properties that we're gonna take advantage of that. So I really have a problem with saying, okay, but there's this one exception in a high-density zone where we want to take advantage of that, but we're going to try to carve out an exception to that, which seems a little bit inconsistent. So from my perspective, I like the idea of, to me, it's a lot more defensible, it's a lot more specific as to why we simply said we're going to take advantage of the state allowance to prohibit it from applying to high-density zones without trying to parse which of those high-density zones or what portion of those high-density zones we will or will not include. So it's,
And we're gonna have other areas in the city, Jim, that this same thing's gonna happen. They
Yeah.
own piece of property that they're no longer gonna be able to do this. If some point in the future, I thought they were gonna be able to, so I don't think,
Yeah.
Well, and that's why we're here, is to make those
That's right.
kinds of decisions. I agree with Jim about this one. While I appreciate that there are these 1 acre lots, but we'd be purely speculating to even assume that they may build or may not build. And so for me, it's not real logical to legislate based on a potential anomaly. So
Yeah.
I
And
think
it-
I'm
and it
okay
only being
leaving it
two-
in.
And it only being 2 lots. Really, I
Yeah.
didn't mean it for it to turn into this big of a
It was
discussion.
worth
you didn't
No,
wanna take
it's-
35
it's a-
minutes on that thing.
But these
It's
2
good.
lot owners can always come back and say, Theron went to bat for me. Okay, I'm finished, thank you.
You just have to make the motion, we're done.
Wait,
It's Theron's turn. No, you took over.
They're too large. I don't think we would be able to, based on the 25%.
But still, it would be this 1 acre situation anyway, so that would exclude a whole lot of those. Okay.
Yeah.
There's CCNRs and stuff.
well, doesn't mean we can't come back and
Yeah.
clarify in the future, which I suspect we will be doing, but
It's not carved on
Here's
tablets.
wishing he could
The
make a
state will
motion right
probably
now.
change this next year, and
Yeah.
we'll be doing it again
yeah.
next year.
So for purpose of moving it on, I'm going to make a motion that we approve the amendment of our ordinance, section 18.84.410, as it has been presented to us in a very well-done manner by our staff, and I can appreciate their help on it.
A second.
A motion by Councilman Lundberg and a second by Councilmember.
Garrett, yes.
Jones, yes.
Lundberg, yes.
Carlson, yes.
Egbert, yes.
Excellent, thank you. Thank you, Sean. We're gonna go to administrative reports. You have any?
Nothing for me.
All right. Reed?
Quiet.
All right. Jessica?
Nope.
Other than everything went great on the 24th.
Yeah, for sure.
So great.
We're gonna have Chief give us a little report on that. It's awesome. Yes,
Just so that doesn't get forgotten.
it's awesome. Theron?
All I was going to say was thank you to everybody for doing that. 24th turned out awesome. For
Greg?
everybody's efforts.
No reports. No reports, but well done.
Jim?
I do not want to interrupt the chief, so I will say no reports.
He's waiting. Good. Right decision. Ding, ding. Camille? Maybe we go to Chief. We're going, just kidding. Okay, all right, Chief, you're up.
Well, I'm going to wait and do Pioneer Day in just a second, just cover a couple things real quick. So a couple weeks ago, we had our first evacuation of the flood area up there on Quiet Meadow Lane. Went awesome, went really, really good. I wish Chief was still here so I could give him a little bit of a plug, but he's put a lot of time and effort into making sure those guys are ready to go. Sandbags, it was amazing when we went up there, they lined the sandbags up around the trail and the mud went around it by about that far, so they kind of had it figured just right. So those residents up there are awesome. They've been just great to work with. Mayor, appreciate you coming down that night and spending some time with the residents. One thing I may change next time is getting a notification out to you guys when we evacuate, because it was helpful to have some elected officials there at the church with those residents just talking and just being with them. So Corey was up there that night. It was. No, we did. We were having contact. Okay, good. So in the future, we may say, hey, come up and hang out a little bit. We did. So, I was having some conversations. Okay, great. So that was done then. So got through the storms. I mean, that was a big one. That brought down some rain and mountain stayed put for the most part. So hopeful that we're past that. We'll see what the next few weeks brings. Second thing, I sent you an email the other day about a topic that I was addressing with the governor. That meeting was really, it was awesome. He was just very receptive, very open, and talked about those topics very openly. I'm going to reach out to Francis now on that topic, just so everybody's clear on what that is we want to eliminate some separation time with the Utah retirement system, so we have a few more options when we're hiring out there. We're not in a pickle right now. It's nothing that hurts us today, but I'm looking down the road, so that's why I'm bringing that topic up now. And as the legislators are getting ready for the session, now's the time to start getting on board with that. So that's why that is going on. So.
Can you clarify that just a little bit? I remember reading in your email, so they're saying that retirees have to wait a certain period of time before they can be picked up by another agency. How long is that?
It's a year.
1 year?
Well,
so they could lose their license or lose their edge, and you're saying that you should be able to hire them right away?
So let me go back. That change happened in 2011. That's not something that's happened in the last few years. And there is a year separation time, and it's not just for public safety. So the best example I can say is if I retired today, I would lose my retirement benefits tomorrow if I went and volunteered to mow the lawn for Maple Mountain High School. It's just, you can't do anything for that year with any URS system. And we want to shorten that a little bit. So yeah, to be frank there, and that's exactly what I want to do. I want the 20-year retirees from the bigger departments to have that option to come up here and work for us.
Are you proposing it just for law enforcement or statewide?
No, it's, yeah, it's all, it would be a blanket URS change for that.
Cool. It would have to be blanket. I don't think you can carve it out for just police officers.
Yeah. The governor, to his, I mean, it was awesome. He said he supported that separation time, and he comes from Sanpete County where they did that exact thing, and he used the term godsend when they were able to hire those retired officers back there because they lost them. So I think it's an issue that's specific to smaller departments, and that's why I've jumped in on it. So that's what it is. So I'll keep pushing on that. Okay, let's talk Pioneer Day.
One more thing. That word retirement's not in your vocabulary for
not for a few
at
years.
least 4.5 years.
Not for a while.
Just make sure that's straight.
Not for a while. So Pioneer Day, hey, I would give you a report, but I really don't have much. I'm still on cloud nine about Pioneer Day. One traffic accident is all I can report to you. A fender bender down on the highway after the fireworks, to be expected with that many cars. The lost kids went from 22 a couple years ago after the ping pong ball dropped to just a couple this year. Everything, so Corey, Sean, everybody that was on the committee, they just had it planned out. It was awesome. I really don't have a lot to report to you. Public safety wise, it was great, so.
That was my question. How did the free parking lot process go?
So I don't know if you guys seen it, but we went over to Interstate and we got one of those big orange signs that they use for road construction that you can put your message on. And we put that in the corner of the field that said free parking before you turn in. So a lot of people seen that and just buzzed right in there. There were 600 cars when it was done in there. And the traffic flow out, we went down and manipulated the traffic light and just left it green and just kept everybody flowing through there. But Jim, I don't know how they did it. There was nobody down there. They lined up perfect in that parking lot. They were lined up organized by rows.
On their own?
And I would love to say that was us, but that is just people using their heads, so. Yeah. Yeah, they were awesome. Oh, I don't know. It was at least 3/4 full.
You got another 150 cars.
Yeah, and they flowed out of there really nice. I was really tickled with that. One thing I learned is I anticipated our walkway when the fireworks got over that we could get traffic going right away. That's not the case. There's so many people walking out of there. That road's just closed for about 10 minutes, 15 minutes, so everybody kind of gets spread out.
Well, I think we probably had a record year turnout, it seemed like.
Yeah, there was-
Every food truck, every vendor sold everything they had. There was nothing left. Lines were crazy, and it was good food. Everybody like it? It was good.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, that part turned out awesome. And that whole week, Chief, the guys did awesome. And there was a lot that happened, obviously. I mean, I got to be a witness of how great our police are through the process of handling this incident up by Jim's house, the neighbor of Jim, and what happened there. And to watch Bringhurst and McCoy and those guys treat the family and the people the way they did, it was unbelievable. And I got to be there and see them and talk with them and the people that were involved, and it was really cool. I mean, you don't get that anywhere, just anywhere. You just don't. And they do, like I said before, they're doing it because they care. They're not doing it because, you sent them on an assignment specifically and you're watching over their back. They're doing stuff because they care. They're doing the little things, and it's because of your leadership. So thank you for that, and thanks for setting that example. It's awesome. We had that. We had every night of the 24th with people out late doing activities and stuff. It was awesome. And then what about those fireworks?
Oh, man.
When was the last time you actually sat under fireworks and felt a spiritual, feeling like, oh, my word. Listen, Jim, listen to me. I mean, the timing was so perfect. Listen to this. Oh my! Yeah, were you not there?
Well, yeah, I was, but I didn't hear any choir.
Oh, it was there.
Corey? Can we get him some hearing aids?
Did he have his earphones in?
Is he serious? Jim, when that song came on and we hit the button, the timing.
Good, I agree.
I mean, it was better than soccer meeting.
It's more spiritual than I
Oh
am.
my word! That song was actually awesome. I don't know if you guys heard it, but it was, and the booms of the fireworks hitting at those, I mean, I'm not a music guy. Let's just get that straight. You, on the other hand, know what a note is. I have no clue and couldn't play a note if my life depended on it, but it was incredible. It was awesome.
Okay, I'll jump in on the sappy side for just a minute since you opened the door. So we had those tower lights in the corners, right? And so I was leaning on a tower light while the fireworks were going off so I could kick it on when it was over. And when those fireworks would go off, I could see the crowd. And you could see people looking up and just smiling. And now here's my sappy part. I'll jump on. I remember thinking, it's awesome. Everybody's smiling. It's cool to be a part of this. So anyway, that's my sappy moment of it too. So
it was awesome.
It was
and
awesome.
You guys did an incredible job. Flow of traffic, I was a little concerned about shutting that parking lot down, and Corey expressed concern. We all expressed concern, but it was the right thing to do. It all just turned out awesome. And how about those pickleball courts? The people using them and stuff? Unbelievable.
They're full. I hear them every morning. It's fun. It's fun to hear them over there. So you hear a lot of giggles over there. Hey,
Chief can't sleep in anymore.
Yeah. How about the cowboy hats? Yes or no? Keep the
So awesome.
Okay. All right.
So awesome. The white shirts with the cowboy hat. incredible.
I mean,
I think you should.
A couple of times where I was looking for a police officer, man, I spotted cowboy hats. That's gotta be one.
That's us.
I think especially Officer Wolfgram, you should make him wear that year-round.
We're doing our
I
department
think it
pictures in a
lightens the
couple
mood a little
months.
bit.
Especially as
It's
a school
perfect.
resource officer, he should be in the schools with
You
us.
know, the schools have softened that guy. He's all, he can't wait for school to start. So
I will admit, I was biting my nails driving home, and a few fireworks kept going off, and I'm like, I hope that was the last one. Hope that was the last one.
During the day, the only other two calls that came in, the ambulance did handle a call in the park of a medical issue. I don't know that they transport
They
them.
did not
They did
transport, no.
And then they got a call of a fire during the fire, just before the fireworks. We believe it turned out to be the heart on the mountain. Somebody was calling it, so.
What's the heart about?
That was an
That was the
honor to the
boys.
boy that got.
The boys in his ward, in his deacon's quorum, went up on the mountain and put those lights up in a heart.
That's wonderful. Yeah, we saw it from my house and thought it was a cool.
That was a spiritual experience. 'Cause from my house, you could hear the choir sing. They had speakers and a bunch of taped music going on.
Did they really?
That was a spiritual experience.
I didn't know that.
They had speakers up there that you
Really?
could hear
That was good. That was a good thing. That was nice.
music.
Chief Glasgow did say one thing in our meetings. He said, you know, coming from California and being in these other agencies and stuff, he said, when a 14-year-old boy, this tragic of an accident involves one of their neighbors in a neighborhood like this, he says the headlines are as a 14-year-old boy passed away, period.
Yeah.
There's no talk, there's no story, there's nothing. And I think he was real touched, thinking, man, you guys are supporting right, you're doing the right things, and when a tragic situation comes up. And it's because of our staff right here. You guys have done an incredible job. And Sean and Corey and Camille and everybody, I mean, Bryce, I mean, even everyone did such a great job with 24th. Thank you for all your hard work. And you guys do make our jobs easier because you guys care. You work hard and you care. It makes all the difference in the world. So thank you.
Well, and I don't want to step on Corey's toes, but Mike Nelson too, and his whole committee
Yeah.
that he put together, they put a lot of work into that, so.
He was born for the job.
I'm so glad there's people like
Yep.
that in the world.
I am so glad he's willing to take that microphone on that stage because I'm the last person you're going to see up there. So it's
The
awesome.
only price we have to pay is pat him on the back once.
That's right. That's exactly right. It's crazy.
So when
That's right. Isn't that the best show?
when do we appoint the next one then? I think whoever does next year should,
Oh,
you know about it pretty soon.
he's locked in.
What was that, Reed? What was the comment?
He's gonna be in charge next year.
Oh,
We
yeah.
ought to have that done real soon.
That's right.
I thought
I
he
already
was a lifer.
prepped him. I already
He's a
prepped him.
Mike's the franchise player.
He's a
on
lifer.
microphone, on
It-
microphone.
Until he can no longer speak, he is the man.
Yeah.
All in favor, say aye.
All right.
He did do awesome. Any other questions about?
Speaking of that, so next year, 24th falls on a Sunday, so I recommend we do that on July 23rd, the Saturday. I'm hearing Spanish Fork might be doing theirs on the 25th, it's Monday.
Yeah, they will always fall, historically, they've always fallen the day after.
Well, that's what the
holiday.
state did this year, right? They went to Monday.
So I would anticipate theirs would be on the Monday.
I vote Saturday.
Yeah,
What's easiest for families?
yeah.
That's it.
It'll be here before we know it. So, any other questions? Pioneer Day? I drove after the fireworks. I jumped in the car and drove for 6 hours on a high, just excited about how it went. It was awesome. So,
And you didn't fall asleep at the wheel, right?
we got off on some dark exit in Wyoming and fell
I
asleep.
took a nap.
Chief, I have another question for you really quick. Any follow-up on that animal shelter issue with the euthanizing of the animals?
Thank you. Nobody has come to us. There was a grant request given to the shelter about their statistics on it, but no follow-up since then. I haven't heard from the organization. I don't know if I've told you guys this, but I'll tell you now. Anytime you guys want to go down there and tour that facility and look at how they do things, you're welcome to. I get where you're coming from, but I also say if you're going to vote on it someday, it might not be a bad idea to see exactly what's going on down there. But that's up to you. No pressure. So, but it hasn't come up.
As of right now, there was a protest, but right now, nothing has changed.
Nothing's changed right now. And I think you'll see legislation. That might be what we do, is wait and see what legislation happens this winter, and that may make up your mind for you.
Okay.
So we'll see.
Okay, good.
Okay, Corey, let's do this.
A couple of council meetings ago, we talked about the fiber and putting together a plan that we would get to you. That has been finalized, working with the draft with Dallas. I should be emailing that to you in the next from us, and I'll give you the kind of the timeline as far as what we're doing with that. Retreat, we're looking probably that October timeframe, give it that about September, October, November, particular month good that for you. We'll start talking to you as far as what would be some of those discussion points. Sean can be working on that policy that we discussed last time as far as the example of that triathlon, with the special events from the triathlon to the trail, and we got to throw in pickleball as well. We're getting calls wanting to reserve the court. Pickleball might not be tied to the special events, but to the policy we've got established and how we want to handle that in the future. Last one for you, we need to go into closed session for the purchase of properties. We can do that. We still need about 5 minutes with that, 5-10 minutes.
Okay, thanks, Corey. We'll look for a motion to close, to enter a closed meeting.
Motion to close.
And-
Motion to close and open into a closed session pursuant to, oh, this is Jim's. 54-2-205.
Motion by Councilmember Jones, a second by Councilman Carlson. You're up, Leslie.
Carlson, yes.
Oh, Jones, yes.
Carlson, yes.
Egber, yes.
Garrett, yes.
All right, you're up.